Alright guys and gals, this is a long playing review for Rex on the Amstrad CPC, released by Martech in 1989. Now Rex is perhaps a game more famous on the ZX Spectrum, and I was inspired to do this long play after seeing Kim Justice's recently released a fantastic video covering the story of the Specky version and just how important it was in the Specky scene, which was notable for being a colourful, action-packed game devoid of colour clash and being high on action and innovation. It truly was a classic game. Although Kim didn't mention, of course, the only conversion of the game, which was to the Amstrad, which got me intrigued. What was the Amstrad version like? So here we are with the Amstrad CPC Rex, and I actually tracked down the Amstrad coder, Neil Dodwell, and we had a little chat with him, but more on that later. So in Rex, you play as a humanoid rhino mercenary, basically one mean mother sent to do a job to rid the planet Zenith invaded by humans that have built their fortunes around a great tower. So yes, this time humans are the enemy. Presumably we have been recklessly colonising the galaxy, consuming planet resources, and the aliens are not happy, and they have called in Rex to clean up the mess we've made. Fair play to them if so. So as we boot things up here, we're actually first going to take a look at a demo or tutorial of the game, which Martech included on both the tape and discs of the game, which is kind of cool actually. I don't know any other company that ever did kind of a separate tutorial for a game. Let me know in the comments below if you can think of any other game that did this. So here we go. It says here, you are about to see an introduction to Rex, the debut game by The Light. More on them in a little bit. And here we go. The orange pads are used to record your position. When Rex is hit, you are taken to the last pad you walked over, so it's a restart point. The blue pads are shield charges. To use them, just stand on the pad. Okay. And weapons pods, there are 4 of these throughout the map. Enter to collect the next weapon, very important. So we've got to find the 4 of these. And finally, some of the screens you will encounter in the game. Alright, and then it's kind of like a rolling demo of some of the screens. And there you go, this is what you'll be expecting to see very, very shortly. So there you go. Nice! So a little tutorial there, that's kind of cool. So yeah, that was on both the tape and discs. I think it was on side B of the tapes, and obviously just on the same side as the disc. And anyway, let's get on with the main long play and get the main game booted up here. Just thought I'd show you that, give you a bit of an idea of what's going to go on shortly. So rather simple loading screen here, not as cool as the Specky's loading screen, which had the actual drawing of the Rex character looking very, very cool and mean. And a very simple, unfortunately, title screen with no music. It just simply says, destroy humans' underground complex and press fire to begin. And that's it. And off you go into the game. Rex gets beamed in there. First thing to do there is to destroy a gun emplacement. Jump across, up to jump, and collect the blue bouncing things there. And that changed the colour in top left corner of the gun there to pink. So we'll talk more on that in just a second. So basically, yes, it's up to jump, and pushing down activates a protective bubble. We're going to activate this now as we jump past this turret. There's the bubble. And protective bubble shield, there's a counter. If you look just above the status, in the status there, oh, there's a weapon pod, sorry. We've now got a double fire weapon. So that's pinned in the top left corner there, but it's not activated yet. Right, so next to score is, you can see a number there, 40, 50. There's, it's just charging up there on that blue pod there. It's going up there to 70, 80, 90. So that's your protective bubble value, and that will go down as you use your protective bubble. Below that, the yellow blocks, you've got one green block there. There's a timer for each screen. It's to stop you basically hanging around on one screen for too long, farming, shooting enemies to collect the blue bubbles that are left behind. Now, those blue bubbles, the more you collect, they will basically change the colours on the weapons there in the top left corner, if you notice. So, the weapon colours, they change from pink to green to cyan to yellow, which you can see there, we've got the moment, to white. And after that, it will move automatically to the next weapon along. So we're currently on our default weapon. So we need to collect one or two more of those bouncing blue balls there. That's a restart point there. Cool. Just walk through it there. Ah, missed it there. That should take... Right, we need one more of those bouncing blue balls there to change it from yellow to white. Right, no, we'll have to wait a little bit here. Those green blobby things don't, unfortunately, spawn any of those blue balls to pick up there. Oh, look, you've got a mine at the bottom of the screen there. And the train. Awesome. Some minecarts. Awesome. Yeah, those green blobs are very reminiscent of Exelon, which was obviously a big inspiration for this game. What else have we got then? So top right corner, you can see 3 like lightning bolt symbols. Those are smart bombs. You start off with 3 smart bombs. You may get lucky with a random spawn of a smart bomb pickup in the game. Next to the number 99 in the status bar in the middle there, the number 3, that's the number of lives you've got. To the left, of course, is the score. And of course, yeah, below that, the yellow blocks is the timer. So yeah, I mean, enemies will constantly sort of spawn on the screen if you wait around on certain screens anyway. I don't know if they will spawn on this screen or not, but others they will. So if you hang around too long and that timer runs out, Rex blows up basically. Right. Now, a map is very, very handy in this game because you want to find all the weapon pods. Now, here's one on... here's a weapon pod on the screen there. That sort of yellow spaceship thing. That will get us the next weapon. And I've done this, hopefully, with the most efficient route possible. Now, it might be worth using a smart bomb here to blow up the train there so we get loads of those blue balls. Yeah, and I've just used a smart bomb there. Now there's loads there to pick up below. That'll get a weapon powered straight up there. So the weapon power, we just picked up a laser there. As you can see, we've got a white. It's white now, top left corner. Now the next colour, next one should take us to the next weapon. Yes, we're on the next weapon now. You can see it's now highlighted in pink, now green, and now we've got double fire. The next weapon along, I think was the laser, I think it said there. So after green it's cyan, then yellow, then white, and then after that will the auto select the next weapon. You after firing X amount of shots, you will lose power on your weapon. You can go down in the colours, and you can also go down in the weapons as well. But you don't lose the weapons you've already picked up, just where you are. So hopefully that sort of explains what's going on. Now the the exit to the game is basically the top middle of the game area. Now it's important you go down this sort of mine cart track and not above. You can't go back on a screen, which is rather unfortunate. So if you were like above here, you can't go back. And unfortunately, you would miss a weapon pod, which is actually over to the top right here, which you can't get to otherwise, I think. So, yeah, that's an unfortunate thing. It's strange how you can't go back on a screen. But I guess it's to stop you farming, basically, the blue bouncy things from enemies. So I've used another smart bomb here, just so we could get loads of these bouncing blue things to get our weapons powered up by destroying the train. There we go. Very, very simple sound effects, but nice explosion sound effects there. As you can see, guys, unusually for what is basically a specky port, the graphics are in mode 0. So just to clarify for those who don't know or are unsure, mode 0 is the Amstrad 16 colour mode. It's lower resolution and chunky pixels, but glorious full colour. Mode 1 is the 4 colour mode on the Amstrad and of a similar pixel size and resolution to the ZX Spectrums, which is why Mode 1 is nearly always used in specky ports, because it's just so quick to do it that way. So that's quite unusual. But anyway, we'll just talk a little bit more about the making of this game now. So there's a fantastic making of an interview with Jaz Austin, the Specky coder, in Retro Gamer issue 112, which gave us lots of details here. Now, The Light, which was the name of the team behind the game, were apparently John Anderson, Neil Harrison, Richard Allen, but were in fact fake names for Jaz Austin, Neil Dodwell and David Dew of Creative Reality, who were reeling from the failure of their most recent game, The Fury, which reviewed and sold poorly, so were under pressure not to be canned by Martech. Thankfully, they had a little demo of what would eventually become Rex, which they called the Peeps game, which at the time was just a single screen with your character blasting lots of stickmen. Martech was suitably impressed by this, and so The Light, with fake names, was born to disassociate themselves from previous failures. And also born was Rex. But before Rex, the game was named Zenith during development, named after the planet the action takes part on here. But there was a famous window company in the UK that was quite well known at the time, so it had to be changed, and eventually Rex was chosen after the character. Now, Jaz designed the levels and David Dew did the graphics, with Neil Dodwell doing the Amstrad version, and we'll talk about Neil in a minute. Jaz in particular was inspired by Raphael Checo. I never know how you pronounce his surname actually, but Raphael's games Exelon, which you can see is a huge influence here. Oh, and here's the next weapon pod, which is a critical. We talked about that earlier. We've got the multiple weapon. So yes, Exelon, a huge influence here, and Cybernoid too. And also apparently the Specky Dan Dare game, which was an inspiration for the graphics, at least on the Specky version. They wanted the game as full screen as possible, which meant making it single screen rather than scrolling. And given the amount of stuff happening on the screen, that was a wise decision. As you can see, guys, at various points, we have lots of action going on, lots of like bullets flying around and explosions going on. It's crazy. So yeah, if it was scrolling, it would absolutely chug along. And also, you can actually shoot the humans repeatedly in the air for a score multiplier and higher score. This sort of over-the-top action hero that's Rex is probably the character's appeal is inspired by like Rambo and Commando movies of the 80s. But it makes it an interesting mechanic if you want to go for a high score attack here. And it took them basically 4 months to complete the Specky game, and it was a great success on release. But after Rex, they all split up though, with Jaz going to Activision in 1989, working on arcade conversions like Altered Beast, and now works at Originate. As for Neil Dodwell, who handled the Amstrad port, well, I tracked him down and was able to have a little chat with him, which was very kind of him, indeed. And he seems a very lovely and friendly chap. Oh, just to point out here, on the Specky version, there's a boss battle, which is missing on the Amstrad version. Oh dear. So cheers, Neil, for talking to me. The problem is, though, he remembers very, very little about coding Amstrad's Rex, which is not uncommon when I talk to coders from back in the day. So unless you were Matthew Smith, by the time of the latter half of the 80s, most coders were now working for largest companies with a high turnover of games. Often they were given weeks to produce a game before they were moved on to the next game, and so forth. And it became like a factory conveyor belt of games being constantly pumped out. So you can't blame them for not remembering too much. Hell, I can barely remember what I did at work a few weeks ago, let alone over 30 years ago. So, whilst the main team of The Light had around 4 months to work up the Specky version of Rex, Neil seems to remember he was handed this right at the very end of development support to the Amstrad. So I would guess he was given a few weeks maximum here. I did ask him, given it's clearly a port of the Specky code, why unusually they went to the trouble of redoing the graphics in mode 0. Neil also can't remember why, and notes that getting Dave, the graphics artist, to redo a load of stuff would have been a nightmare, but I'm glad they did. Maybe that decision cost us missing the bosses. Like, we missed one boss there, there's another boss later on. And also, unfortunately, guys, we are missing the entire second section of the game known as the Tower, which was a separate load on the Specky version. Unfortunately, just to let you know now, that is completely missing from the Amstrad version, which is a really big shame. So maybe that decision to redo the graphics cost us that. I don't know. Who knows? Because Neil can't remember why either, sadly. So I'm just guessing and speculating there. So I asked Neil a few more questions. Neil was 21 years old when he ported Rex. And he says he loved writing for the Amstrad. Although he felt like the Spectrum got all the attention, which was unfortunate for the Amstrad. He remembers using the Maxim assembler to do all his code. I had Maxim too. It was a great assembler. And he used to compile all the code off floppy disk, which was a fairly tedious process. So no fancy expensive development machines. Neil confirms he was just on a standard monthly wage with Martech, which is why the light or creative developments all left after doing Rex, with Neil going on to do Myth for both the Spectrum and the Amstrad to great success. And Neil is still working in the games industry today at Sumo Digital in the UK, and still often has to port games today, which he still enjoys doing, but of course they're of a much higher profile. So thank you, Neil, for talking with me, and I'll have a chat with him again when we get around to doing Jailbreak, which was his first port and Amstrad project he worked on. So let's talk about the other versions of Rex. Well, ZX Spectrum, and I don't need to talk too much again about the amazing Specky version. For what it did on the Specky, it's quite the achievement, and of course it's got the entire second section on a separate load, plus bosses that the CPC version just doesn't have. And it has a kick-ass loading screen. So the Specky is most definitely the winner here, unfortunately. But well done, Specky. Commodore 64. There was a version advertised for the C64, but sadly it never materialised. According to research done by the GamesThatWeren't.com website, work never actually started on the game despite it being advertised. Besides, Creative Reality, or The Light as they became known for Rex, had already moved on from Martech, and Martech were a relatively small company that had already set their sights on the 16-bit market at the time. So it was just the Amstrad and Spectrum then, and the Spectrum wins here. Although I do really like Amstrad Rex. As for magazine reviews, now normally I go looking for a review in Amstrad Action magazine, but weirdly this was never reviewed in AA, and I checked all the issues in 1989, and this is very strange, especially given there was a little bit of a lull and a slump in the number of games reviewed in the middle of the year. And if they had a review copy, it would have almost certainly been put in, so very strange why Martech never sent a review copy. But it was reviewed by several French magazines, though, 3 different magazines in France, to good reviews, ranging from 70% up to 85% scores. So, very odd, very strange. Who knows? As for my review, well, whilst nowhere near as good or as impressive as the Specky version, it's slightly slower, it's missing the boss battles, and more importantly, the entire second section of the game. However, it's still a really great, decent blast, mixing run and gun, platforming and exploration into one excellent package with an exciting array of weaponry and a heavy emphasis on the gun. And let's face it, the Amstrad needs more decent run and gun games, even if this is more walk and gun. But the mass destruction on the screen more than makes up for that. It's also truly a great melding of Raphael Checo's Exelon and Cybernoid, 2 standout classics. So how to rate this? Well, the lack of music and presentation is a bit disappointing, really, and kind of a lack of an ending, which we'll see shortly. So, well, I think I'll give this a solid 8 out of 10. And as a percentage score, I'll probably give it an 83%. If it had the bosses, the second level, and a bit more love and care, it would have easily got into like the 90% range for me. I think this is a really, really great game. But sadly, it's a bit lacking on the Amstrad. A bit more time, a bit more care and attention. This truly could have been a really classic game on the Amstrad. It already is in the Specky. Doesn't quite hit the mark on the Amstrad, but it's still a game well worth checking out. I mean, look how many sprites we've got on the screen at the moment. Look how many enemies are there. It's great fun. Really is good fun. And the controls are really nice and responsive. Lots of great blasting action there. Lots of stuff happening. I really enjoy the chaos and carnage. And there's not many games that really... Look how many bullets are on screen at the moment. Come on, you've got to respect that. Got to respect that. And there you go. Yeah. So I think we're about 3 screens away from Rex. And what helped me complete this game was there's a map on the CPC Power website. I mean, it's not a complex maze to follow. I mean, basically, you go from the start, go right, and then start making your way upwards. And the end of the game is kind of like the top middle of the complex. You basically got to get out of the mine, essentially, which is going to be at the very, very top. But using a map helped me find one of the weapons pods, which is to the top right of the complex, which I talked about earlier. Yeah, there we go. Oh yes, this is the final screen, so I saved up my smart bombs for here. Oh, there is one little issue on this game, whereas when you jump into a platform, if you turn and face the other direction just as you're about to land, you often fall through the platform, which is really freaking annoying. And that really needed to be addressed. I don't know if that happens on the Specky version or not, but that was a big no. Anyway, we have done it! With the complex destroyed, Rex can go home and have a well-earned cup of tea. That is actually the same ending message you get at the end of the Specky version when you've destroyed the tower, second section, and the boss there, which is a bit strange to see here on the Amstrad one as well. Not much of an ending, and you don't see the base being blown up or anything, but, well, there you go. So there you go, guys. That's me done with Rex. Let me know what you think in the comments below and what you would rate this game. Don't forget to give us a like and a thumbs up, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho out.